Hey guys, I'm Jason,
I'm Jordan.
and we wanted to tell you all about a game that we're making. We've been playing video games our entire lives, and we thought it'd be fun to try and make our own. We've entered game jams before with less than ideal results, but this is going to be different because
So, neither of us actually have much game development experience. Jason has a background in software development, which means coding is nothing new for him. And I edit videos for a living, and video games are just interactive videos. So, the way we've divided this up is that I am going to work on drawing the art assets for the game, and Jason is going to do his nerd thing and put it all together. Cool? Cool.
So, what kind of game are we making? When we first started talking about an idea for the game, we knew we wanted to make a game with a variety of characters that all played differently. Games like Overwatch, League of Legends, Smash Bros., they all have a unique cast of characters. And the great thing about games with characters like this is that there's a character for everyone. And while those are all great games, from a development standpoint, that's a lot of action to give every character. At least for two inexperienced game devs like us. And considering we've never actually finished a game before, it would probably be a good idea to keep the project smaller in scale, which we immediately threw out the window. Anyways, we decided that if we were going to have several playable characters, that they all needed to have simple moves. Fun moves, but simple.
Introducing Project Broken Bonds, a side-scrolling brawler featuring several compelling characters and a captivating storyline. Hopefully. We ended up designing on a brawler because we liked the idea of a game with fast and flashy combos, and that the smaller movesets would be able to translate well. And then we decided to do 2D animation, even though we have basically no experience with animation. Or writing a decent story. You see what I mean when I said we threw simplicity out the window? We said earlier that we wanted the characters to have relatively simple movesets. So how do we try and do that while also trying to make the characters fun to play? We decided on a simple list of moves that each character would have that works with their design playstyle. Each character will have a basic attack string, an air attack, 2 active skills, and a passive ability. And maybe an ultimate move. For example, one of our earliest characters is the Aerial Brawler, a character designed to excel at dealing damage in the air. Their basic attack launches enemies into the air, their air attack does more damage than their grounded one, and their passive gives them an extra jump. We have other characters playing with the same formula, a playstyle of strength and moves that complement it. We think this idea keeps the moves somewhat simple, while also giving us freedom for some more creative ideas for characters.
With that being said, with such a limited selection of moves, combat could potentially grow stale. So we decided that we would incorporate a switching mechanic so that players would be able to select 2 characters and swap between them on the fly for some massive combo potential. This adds a good amount of depth and player expression without affecting our overall workload too much. We do have some other mechanics we want to put in too, because scope creep, but we can talk about those another time.
I guess we should probably show you what we have done so far. So my job so far has been designing the characters and the enemies. The characters are an important part of the game, so we've been putting in a significant amount of effort into making sure their designs reflect their story and personality. With that being said, this is Abby. Abby is an exceptionally accomplished fighter. She's strong and she knows it, so she carries herself with a lot of pride, which can result in her being kinda standoffish at times. But she's not a mean person though. Gameplay-wise, Abby's our aerial brawler that we talked about earlier. She excels at close range, air combat. Now, Abby's not our main character, but she will be one of our playable characters. Our idea for the character designs is that the character's weapons are real items, but now they have some magical power. It could be a sword, but now it changes size, or an axe that's now made of fire. And it's not necessarily limited to just weapons. But Abby has these fancy bracers on her leg that you can see, and because they're magic now, they're able to generate electricity. And so she attacks by kicking to work with that, which you will see in the sprites that are in the game. Now, Abby's design isn't final, but we're pretty happy with how she looks right now. The art style is pretty heavily inspired by anime, and while it's not quite where I want it to be, I think it's good for now. So that's Abby. So let me know what you think. Please be nice though. I'm still trying to improve my drawing and animating skills, so hopefully we can get them looking good for the game. Oh, and while we're here are the concepts for the first enemies. I thought it would be fun if they were based off traffic cones, which I think is kind of funny. So we have 3 types of regular enemies. Brawlers, who will try to deal damage up close. Snipers, who will deal range damage. And specialists, which might not necessarily do direct damage, but will make fighting enemies harder. Maybe by placing mines or healing enemies or something like that. These ones on screen are pretty basic and are supposed to be weak in game, so they don't do a lot. This one charges at you, this one fires bullets at you, and this one drops proximity mines. Pretty simple, but we'll have more complicated enemies later. And that's all from me so far.
Which means it's time for you to actually see the game. So far, I've been mainly focusing on creating the basics of the combat system, since that's kind of a big deal in a brawler. As of right now, this is what the game looks like. Ta-da! We have an incredibly bare bones HUD, which shows the active character, secondary character, health, and stamina, I guess? Aside from that, there are two of our starting enemies, the red one being our basic brawler, and the blue one the sniper. The AI for the enemies is pretty dumb at the moment, as they are only really there to test the feel of fighting enemies. Both just attempt to follow the player until they get close enough to use an attack. When the player movement and combat feels better, I want to come back to the enemies and make them more fun to fight. Our plan for the enemies is to give each enemy 2 abilities or attacks to make them feel more alive. For example, a sniper enemy might shoot at you from a distance, but then attempt to roll past you once you backed it into a corner. Or a brawler might throw something from a short distance if there are enemies already fighting you directly in front of it. We want compelling and interesting enemy designs to really enforce the use of the switching mechanic so that players really have to think during a fight. Speaking of the player movement is where I've spent the majority of the time working, and is in a pretty solid place right now. The player can move, jump, dash, and use all of their attacks and skills, as well as switch characters, which currently doesn't do anything. Switching characters works with a single player object that has the scripts for both the selected characters as well as the animation controllers. When the switch button is pressed, the new script is enabled and the old one is disabled, and the animation controller is also swapped. So the player keeps the same location and just swaps, similar to switching from Zelda to Sheik in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. This does mean that we can't do assists or assist swaps or anything like that, which we kind of like the idea of doing, so this might change at some point. Anyways, the character you're seeing now is made up of several sketches to block out the keyframes for Abby's attacks as well as running and jumping. She kicks, then she kicks again, then once you're in the air she kicks some more. You get the idea. Abby's supposed to be a combo heavy character, so all these kicks link together for some pretty cool chains.
Fight back, nigga! Fight back, nigga! Fight back! Fight back!
When developing, it was important that I made the process of creating and modifying characters simple so that we didn't end up with a character-based game with only one character. Doesn't sound like fun to me. So each character's attack info is stored in a scriptable object, and then loaded when the game starts. This makes changing and adding new characters fairly simple. Someone does too much damage, you adjust some numbers. Want to extend the character's attack string? Add a number. Need a new character? Create a new character object, and make a new script that inherits the movement script. Simple, except since we are making our first game with traditional 2D animation, like Lunatics, everything has to be animation based. That matters because each character needs a different amount of animations for ground attacks and air attacks, while also using several animations for skills, each with their own input window and active times. Since playing with the animations is going to take so much time, having the rest of the character creation process be easy is a dream. Oh, shout out to this video that taught me how to use the combat for the system. I didn't follow the video directly, but it gave me a general idea of which direction to go for the combat. Alright, now it's time for the other things I did speed round. Go! I added a basic menu for the mission preparation where you can select characters. The menu saves the details to a file and then it gets read when you start a level, so the characters and perks and stuff transfer through scenes. I added the basics of a dialogue system so that we can have a story where people actually talk to each other, a novel concept, I know. I made a route-based camera system so that when you walk into an area, the camera shifts but still follows the player. Levels in combat are likely to be room-based, so we can just adjust the camera to fit whatever size room the player is in. And I think that's about it. Alright, so that concludes Devlog 0. We're excited to be finally showing you guys what we've been doing so far and all these big plans that we have for the future of this game.
We understand the project's kind of ambitious, especially for our first game, but we're super excited about it, and we have tons of crazy ideas and plans for characters and story and locations and all that stuff.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested and you guys want to keep up, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll be sure to update you guys when we have more stuff ready for you.
So thanks for sticking around to the end, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.